I always wait for the little red thing in the corner with the clock that shows me that we are in fact going live. Hello and welcome. Happy Friday to another installment of Get a Clue in 52 for speakers, or speaker edition, with my friend and co-author and certified integrity game coach and all these other ways that I know you. Sue, how are you? I know that you got sounds like you got some sniffles. Yeah, it's summertime for us, but wintertime for you guys?
Yes, yeah. Unfortunately, I do have the sniffles. Just a little bit of sinus, but So I apologize in advance if I have a sneezing fit. But aside from that, I'm good.
Okay, yeah. Well, sneezing fits are kind of natural, right? And if it has to happen, it has to happen. But we know the show goes on, and we're silly on Fridays. We're jovial on Fridays. We've had a long week, and we want to put some good content out there, and we want to work through our tips, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. Ever really, but certainly on Fridays and at the end of the week and so forth. So here we are. We're in Get a Clue in 52. By now, everybody knows this is the fourth version of a Get a Clue in 52 book. We did the original, which is Expanding Self and Business. Then the second version was the Entrepreneur Edition that I did with Vipul Dayal for entrepreneurs. The third edition that I did last year was for coaches. So all 52 tips in all 5 categories were all about being a coach and selling coaching and building a coaching practice and providing motivation and accountability inside of the coaching relationship. And now here we are, Get a Clue in 52 for speakers. And so these 52 tips are always organized in 5 categories represented by these symbols on the podium here. And what we know is that we started category 1, section 1 was playing the integrity game. So this is repurposing of content. By now, everybody knows I wrote a book called The Integrity Game, and it's a 10-point model for personal and professional growth, but it gives us that structural integrity, helps us retrofit and build the foundation and build the stability and the framework that we can then add everything else to. So questions of purpose and gifts and competitive advantage and potential and goal setting and strategies, tactics, resources, and being our word and taking action and accumulating accomplishments, all the things are good in and of themselves, whether you want to be a speaker or not. But definitely for a speaker, we encourage you to play the integrity game. So those were the first 10 tips. With that structure in place, now we want to bring out your brand. Now we want to paint the house and decorate the house and interior design the house and create the landscaping. And how does your house, other than just the address alone, how does your house differ from all the other houses on the block? Right? Even houses that are built with the same model, you can still go in there and get a completely different look and feel of what it's like to be in that house, right? Because of our competitive advantages, because of our unique promises, because of the differentiation of market segments that we deal with, because of our relative courage or fear when it comes to putting ourselves out there, the humility of being humble. And we got through all of these tips on branding, coming up with a brand, brand promises, differentiate, on and on. So we spent 10 tips there. Then we moved into section 3, which is all about being fearless. And what I mean by being fearless is actual speech prep. And what I really mean when I say be fearless, I say be conversational, right? In other words, what we want to be is ourselves on stage. I don't want to be a robot. I don't want to be a talking head. I don't want to look like I'm reading from teleprompter. I don't want to have to memorize and looking up for my memory and stuff. I don't want to do anything that disconnects me from my audience. I want to be fearless in my ability to engage with, interact with, connect with, stay connected with the audience. So the tips that were really what we were talking about, the tips, they organized themselves after we did 2 mindset tips, then tips 30, then tips 23 through 30 were 8 steps to fearless public speaking. And let me just get this out of the way right now. If anybody out there watching a recording missed the previous 2.5 months of tip reading, or what we're referring to is we have a standalone document called 8 Steps to Fearless Public Speaking. It's step 1, step 2, step 3. I'm promising you, if you follow all of the steps the way that we coach you to do it, you will be more fearless or entirely fearless. You will be conversational rather than robotic or stiff or stuck in memorization, which is a huge risk if you forget. On and on. There's so many advantages to following 8 steps to fearless public speaking. And if you want a free copy, simple deal. Give us your email. We'll give you the value and we'll put you into our system and we'll market to you until you unsubscribe. And it's cool. It's the way the world works, right? But we want to make sure that that's available. And the reason we brought it up is because the entirety of section 3, well, the last 8 tips in this section were the 8 steps towards fearless public speaking. Now, one of those tips happened to be tip number 27, which was the strategy of outlining. The strategy of outlining. And outlining is such an incredible, important tip in the whole entire process that we decided to create a whole section from that one tip, or that one step, if you will. So what we got is section 4, which is where we are now, where we're breaking down the elements, the forms, and the functions. And today's pretty cool because we started this section last week with a mindset tip, right? Getting into understanding the mind of our audience, right? Really understanding speech prep from the perspective of what's going on in the minds of our audience. How do we get into that mind and capture that attention and keep it all the way through? How do we anticipate the questions that are going to come up in the minds of the audience, answer those questions before those questions come up, and not do anything or say anything that would create questions that weren't going to be there in the first place, right? As soon as a person starts listening to their own self-talk, they're not listening to us anymore as speakers. So we want to do everything that we can, right? As an overarching tip, that's what we were talking about last week. Now, real quick, I'm going to let you summarize that and we'll get into today's tip, but we're going to finish the year 12 weeks of practice building. So whether you're, let's say you're a financial advisor or a mortgage professional or a real estate agent or a commercial insurance broker or any, right? You're a professional service provider and you want to build a practice, right? We're here to tell you that there's 12 accountabilities that must be met. Same true if you want to build a speaking practice all the way on the way to a speaking business. Do you have a speaking business? Do you have a speaking practice? Or do you get some gigs here and there, right? There's a difference between getting a gig every now and then, between having a practice, between having a business, right? So we got these 12 accountabilities, and it's a jovial way to finish the year. They're going to be offered to you to the music of 99 bottles of beer on the wall. And so get ready for that fun. But having said all of that, Sue, let me hand it over to you and ask, not to trigger any sniffles, but how are you doing? And what do you have to say about last week's tip number 31, the mindset of audience, before we get into what we want to talk about today?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So last week we talked about the tip within the tip, and that was that understanding the mind of your audience and managing our content so that we stay conversational and connected. And what we focused on was tell them. And that was about telling them what you're going to tell them, telling them, and then telling them what you told them.
Right.
And that was focusing on an introduction that builds their interest. It, shines that light on the topic and gives a good reason as to why they should be listening to us as a speaker. And then, so that was where we finished that section, or that tip, was that focus on the introduction, and then also commenting that the body of our speech will then take our audience on the journey where we go through the highs, the lows, all the excitement, the emotion, the experience that we want them to have.
Yeah.
And then from there, today we're talking about commanding attention. So tip 32, commanding attention, and reading word for word now. I was on such a high after the last tip. I was there with my audience delivering this amazing speech, but then it really hit. I still have to do the work.
Relax. Like I said, it's actually simple, and even more so because I broke it down into 5 elements. That's right. The 9 elements of outlining include the 5 elements of an introduction. So without further ado, let's get into them. Element number 1, command attention. As you can see in each of the samples at the end of this section, and if you guys have the book, you can see it, and I can screen share and show if you want. But as you can see in each of the samples at the end of this section, the very first words that come out of a speaker's mouth should be attention grabbing, to focus the audience on the speaker instead of the myriad of things that audience members can become preoccupied with prior to and during the speaker's introduction. Many things count as attention grabbers, such as holding up an object or a specimen or reciting a quote or telling a joke. In my experience, usually the most effective approach to gaining attention is to ask your audience to do something, even if it's just to think about an answer to a question you have posed to them. Speakers like Tony Robbins will get the audience to stand up and dance or clap or even turn to each other and hug or give back rubs to one another. I don't go that far. Well, not at first anyway. Ask them anything, right? To keep things simple, you can get more advanced, creative after you've gotten a feel for what is easy. But to keep things simple, I recommend asking your audience one or more questions. Know this. A human brain cannot hear or observe a question without immediately searching for the answer. What this means is that all you need to do to get the attention of your audience is to ask them something. Usually the question will pertain to your topic or purpose, but the beauty and simplicity of the effectiveness of asking questions is that the question can be about anything. Again, if there is no real answer to the question, the brain will attend. I'm sorry. Again, even if there is no real answer to the question, the brain will attend to answering anything it is asked. In the road trip sample outline at the end of this section, I could just as easily have asked, quote, how many of you know what color underwear you have on right now? Or by show of hands, how many of you love football? Or if you could eat anything in the world, what would you most like to eat right now, this second? The truth is, any question you ask will not only grab the attention of your audience, but will also allow you to interact with your audience and help ease your own nerves or raise your own comfort level through connection and a feeling of conversation or ice breaking with your audience. It follows quite logically that once you have the attention of your audience, you are now in the best position to state what your speech or purpose is all about. Coincidentally, that is the next element of an introduction and the next tip in this book next week. There it is. The first element of an introduction: command attention.
I'm feeling quite comfortable with this. I envisage having one or two questions ready, but then also being flexible to change that if there is a better question that reflects the immediate environment or circumstances, thus allowing even deeper connection, with the audience.
And what we're doing here is we've listed the first element, and so next week we're just going to keep a running list, I believe, of all of the elements as they come about. So next week you'll see the second element listed there, and maybe I'll start to get us ready to screen share so people that are watching online can kind of see how it lays out in the book, and then I can show the samples at the end of the section that I'm referring to. Let me just check and make sure that they're really here. Yeah, they are. Okay, thank God. They're in there. I'm like, wait, because we wrote this book almost a year ago now, Sue, right? So,
yeah, I know.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. So while I'm looking for visuals to show people, you want to elaborate on the whole idea is, and by the way, I look command attention. It's so rough, right? Invite, ask, gain, grab, secure. There's other terms. I don't want people to be off-put by how strong the word command is, right? Invite, encourage, solicit, garner, seek, right? But the idea is I don't want to do anything in my speech until I have the attention of my audience. Because one of the first questions my audience is going to ask, whether they hear themselves ask it or not, is, should I pay attention? Usually what they're saying to themselves is, oh, I can send this text real quick, or, oh, should I check my messages, or, oh, are the kids okay, or, oh, is my boss breathing down my neck, or is the person that was planning on meeting me here, are they on their way yet? Or I keep on doing this because the phone, how do we compete with this thing? Right? Well, we can hold up an object. How many people could tell me what this is? Or, hey, there's 1,000 marbles in this jar. How many people want to guess how many marbles are in the jar? Or, hey, how many of you are hungry right now? If you can eat anything in the world right now, what would you want to eat? I know I'm about to start speaking, but I'm just really curious. Is anybody hungry?
Yeah.
And so you could tell, and I'm going to let you talk for a little bit, but you could see how creative and fun, how creative I try to be, how much fun I try to have with it. And the couple of pieces that were important to me here is that the question that you ask doesn't even have to be about your speech. And number two, the space that you allow people to actually answer the question can help you settle in and help you feel the room and help you settle into your nerves and your biorhythms for being in the room, in the stage, in the space, right? So you're not just grabbing attention, but you're interacting, you're engaging, you're buying yourself some time, you're settling your nerves, you're feeling the room. So this is a really important, when we talk about the section being called elements, forms, and functions, the very first element, right, is grabbing attention getter. You want to practice attention getters, have attention getters up your sleeve, not just for the very first thing that you say, but throughout your speech as well. You may need to come back and introduce some additional attention getters. Hey, now that I've introduced my topic, are we ready to move forward? That's a transition sentence, but it's an attention-getting transition sentence because it's in the form of a question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I'll go ahead and look for visuals and let's see what you have to say here, Sue.
Sure. I like in this tip, I like the comment that's made on page 140 where it says, and help ease your own nerves or raise your own comfort level through connection, feeling, conversation, or ice breaking with your audience. And certainly one thing when I facilitate a workshop, the importance of starting with that icebreaker is exactly what we're talking about here in terms of getting that attention from the audience. And not only is it helpful for us, but it helps to transition the audience from whatever environment they've come from, whether it's face-to-face or online, and helps them to break that thought process and get out of whatever it was that they were focusing on. So exactly what you're talking about, they're focused on us as the speaker. So I think that having fun with that icebreaker and understanding the importance of it, the purpose of it, is really key to setting ourselves up for success. And because I think some people shy away from that icebreaker. Oh, I don't like being silly. I don't like doing something fun. And one, as an example, one that we often used facilitating or a workshop was breaking the audience into two, if it was face to face, two teams, and they had a tub of Lego each, and it was who could build the tallest tower with the Lego in 2 minutes. And that's all it needed, was to break their thinking and get them into the space that we wanted them in. But I'm interested, particularly when we're doing a lot of sessions online, what are your thoughts? I mean, yes, we can ask a question, and I certainly like that one about the food. Are you feeling hungry? What would you eat right now? And that's a good one. Are there any other ones? Because movement is probably a little bit more restricted online.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, ask the question. What
other suggestions would you have for that commanding attention, getting attention when we're online?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of effective things done, and I do the best I can with it as well. All the things that we said in the book, asking questions. I could hold something up. I can, ask everybody to stand up and shake something out, or ask people to. I can make a noise. I can tell a joke. I can do a quote. I can do all of those things. But what online allows us is a couple more things, right? One thing that comes to mind is a countdown.
Okay.
Right? I could visually show a countdown. So if you show up and you log in online and you see 47, 46, 45, 44, that's kind of attention gaining, right? Another thing that I've seen people do with some effectiveness, whether it's at the beginning of a speech, an online talk, or sometime after, is making use of chat. Making use of the chat. Hey, everybody, we're going to get started in just a minute, but in the meanwhile, go ahead and put your contact information into the chat. Go ahead and make sure people know who you are. You know who does a phenomenal job at this? You know who is Lisa Reed. Shout out to Lisa Reed, who is the CEO of International Speakers Network and the founder of Get Speaking Gigs Now. She was also kind enough to write the foreword for our book, and what she does online is incredible. and then she makes it look effortless, but everybody's engaged, everybody's paying attention. Some people check in and out, but having activities planned and being herself. And it's kind of interesting that, I don't know if you've noticed this about Lisa, but and I don't know if she does this intentionally. It's the effect of it, and I love it. And I love it because I'm kind of the same way, but like, she's just masterful at it. And I say that wondering if she's ever intentional about it, or she's just being herself. But that's what I'm getting. She's just being herself. So a lot of times, like a heavily produced production online might not tolerate the way Lisa does it, but the way Lisa does it, it's more heartwarming for me, or it's more engaging for me. In other words, she doesn't show up pretending that anything's going to be perfect. Sometimes you'll just be watching her, and she'll look like this. Let me see what's going on here. Oh, that's not the one I wanted. I'm looking for a different one right now. And she'll just, do you know what I mean? So it's like, I'm leaning in to how real she is, how human she is, right? And that's attention gaining, right? Because she's not coming off as a guru or on a pedestal or anything like that, which has me leaning in. So she's really effective. I've seen other people get really effective, not just from the attention gaining aspect of asking people to put stuff into the chat, perform a task. Right. But you can imagine there's so much other value that comes from that. After my Zoom is done, I've got a list of everybody's email address, everybody's phone number, everybody's LinkedIn profile. So, like, there's other advantages there. But does that answer your question? I would say
it does. It is helpful, like having that countdown and using the chat from the perspective of allowing your own personality to come through. And certainly Lisa is great at that. And she's a fabulous model of the opportunities in terms of using chat. But I think it's also just going, okay, recognizing, say, I don't have the same personality as Lisa, but I can still use chat effectively and use it in a way that works for me. And being okay with that, and allowing, just being real with it. And I guess having conversation as you go, if you're going to use chat. And it was because there was an International Speaking Network session just the other day. And it was funny because the topic for Lisa was tech, and she had some tech issues, but she was using it naturally, keeping everyone in the loop, keeping engaged, and managing. Oh, hang on, what am I going to do here?
Yeah. The best answer to your question is really this: anything that you might do to grab attention offline, do it online. In other words, it's healthy to see it as there being no difference between online and offline. Right now, I've done this before where I've started a speech where I've walked around the room, like where I've got people seated in a semicircle, and I just start at one side and I just go and I give everybody the rock. I give everybody a fist bump before I even open my mouth. I'll just say, and I'll just walk and I'll connect and like physically touch people. Boom, 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 boom. And then I'll come back to the front and say, hey, everybody gives the rock, right? I've rarely seen anybody say no when you offer the rock. If you do it with a smile on your face, even better. Thank you all for connecting with me before I start my talk. My name is Jeff Klubeck, and I'm about to rock your world. Right? I can't do that online, but could I? Say, hey, everybody, give me the rock. Maybe I do it into the camera. Right? Everybody put your fist bump. Everybody, let's start with a big fist bump. Everybody, let's start with a high five. Everybody, let's get a hug going real quick. You know what I'm saying? Like, in other words, what I'm really trying to encourage you to realize, the best answer to your question is same attention getter that you would use online or offline, use it online. Or just adapt it. Same attention getter. So let's look at the usual suspects. Hey, I want to start off today's online event with a quote by Albert Einstein, who told us, we cannot solve the world's problems with the same level of thinking that created them. So who's ready to think different? Who's ready to think bigger? Who's ready to get outside of the box? Hello, everyone. My name is Jeff Klubeck, and I'm going to take you on a tour of thinking bigger, better out of the box today. You see what I'm doing there? So I grab the attention, and then I move into what's my topic statement, which is what we're going to talk about next week. And we previewed it in today's tip. But let's make a list real quick. Okay. Oh, and by the way, it's like I'm Jeff Klubeck, by the way, founder and author of the Integrity Game. That's Sue. And the aforementioned Lisa is not with us, but you are. Welcome to another installment of Get a Clue in 52 for Speakers. We're in tip number 32 today, which means we're in section 4, which means whereas in tip number 27, we talked about the strategy of outlining. Now we're getting into the tactics of creating the outline. And the very first thing that should show up on your outline, like Roman numeral 1, sub A, attention getter. Okay, so that's the first element. We've got 9 elements of some form and some function to work through. We talked last week about the mindset of our audience, right? We want to understand that there's questions that the audience is going to have in their mind, and we want to answer those questions before they ask them. To be an usher, we want to see ourselves not just as a speaker, but as an usher, an escort, a Sherpa, if you will, a tour guide, a right this way to your value, please. We don't just want to speak at an audience. We want to take them and guide them through our speech. So what we're getting into now, the very first element that we're going to use to be a guide is everybody ready to go?
Yeah.
Right? That's a question. Yeah. Can everybody see me okay? Right? So let's make a list real quick. Questions, jokes, stories, quotes, calls to action or commands, right? Activities, exercises. These are all attention gaining mechanisms. To me, we're focusing on questions today because it's the easiest thing in the world, right? And so now it's just easy to ask questions. And when I go to sharing my screen, let's see if I can pull this up and pull this off and get into a particular window and tell me if you can see my screen. Sue, can you see it?
It's coming. Yep, got it.
All right. So section 4, elements, forms, and functions. We saw last week how we talked about the mindset of our audience, and we talked about guiding, ushering, right? Now, where we are today, Sue, is right here, command attention, and element number 1, and then we're going to start to build these. So now, look, we've got, right, ask question, and next week we're going to have number 2 and number 3, on and on and on. But what I referred to up here, right, which was, I'm just looking for it. Aha. In the sample outline at the end of this section. That's what we read. I'm like, I hope I actually put the outline in there at the end of the section. So as I scroll through, I just wanted to make sure people get a visual on this. So here we are. We're at the end of the section. So this is the 5th step to fearless public speaking. And this is where we see 5 elements of an introduction. There's another element called effective transitions, right? So that's a 6th element, right? Effective transitions. And then very simply, there's going to be 3 elements of a conclusion. So that's our 9 elements. 5 elements of an intro. The 6th element is effective transitions that get us from our intro to our body, through our body, and to our conclusion. And then the final 3 elements are in the conclusion. Now, I've seen speeches where you could add a 4th element or you could add additional elements, but to keep it simple, I want people to understand visually this is, right, 1 and 2 are subordinate to A, and A and B right here are subordinate to 1. And so we could start to imagine how we're going to organize our content, construct and build our speech. But for today's purposes, this is what I was referring to. You can see the 5 elements of an introduction right here. And so today's tip is all about gather. You see, I use the word gather instead of command. Sue?
Yeah.
Gather, gain, secure, solicit attention. I don't want to do any of the rest of this before I've done this. And when I'm teaching my students at San Diego State or wherever I've taught in the last, 2 decades plus, I explain to them, like, let me, and I'm elaborating a little bit more than I may want to. This will come up again. I'll probably be repetitive in the coming weeks. But when I get to reason to listen, I want to motivate your listening. I want to give you a reason to listen, or I want to tell you why you should listen to this speech. But I also want to tell you why you should listen to me giving this speech. These 2 pieces, in my opinion, they could come in either order. I can establish my credibility first and then tell you why you should listen, or I could tell you why you should listen and then go into my credibility. But here's what I will never, ever, ever do. Anything before I've done this, right?
Yeah.
Gather attention is the absolute first thing, no matter what. It's nails on a chalkboard. And I forgive the students because they're students and they're learning. Not everybody's excited about public speaking. It's general education. Most of them don't want to be there, but they're there because they have to and just want to get it over with. And most of them, they don't even care if they get a D or a C, just not an F, please. But they just want to get through the experience, hold their nose, and move on with their lives, right?
Yeah.
So it bothers me when they go, hi, my name is Jeff, and I'm going to be doing an informative speech on Egyptian culture today. So tell me, how many of you know somebody Egyptian? It's like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Say, how many of you know somebody Egyptian? How many of you have been to Egypt? How many of you have seen the pyramids on TV? How many of you have ever visited the Sphinx? And how many of you have ever seen the movie 10 Commandments? Okay. If you answered yes to any of those questions, and even if you answered no to every single one of those questions, today I'm going to talk to you about Egyptian culture. You see how that?
Yeah.
You see what I'm working with there? So, hey, funny thing happened to me on the way to giving my speech today. I ran into an Egyptian on the subway station. There's ways to gain attention. We could tell a story. We could tell a joke. We can do a quote. We can do hold up an object. We can play a game. We can, offer a quiz. We can, ask people to stand up and shake it out or take a deep breath with me, or everybody close your eyes real quick and visualize you're standing at the pyramids of Giza, right? We could do a visualization. We're unlimited in how we gain attention. So the element is grab attention. The function is to set up our guiding them logically through our, right? And the form that it takes could be a question, it could be a story, it could be a joke, it could be an exercise. I'm being repetitive here, but I wanted people to see visually what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So once we're going to elaborate, next week we're going to talk about just a purpose statement, a topic statement. In 2 weeks, we're going to talk about reasons to listen. And then we're going to talk about establishing credibility and how do we preview our main points, and all of this functions to make sure our audience knows where the whole damn thing is going, right? And so that we can stay on track, and they know where we are at any given time. We know where we are. So we're starting to see now the elements, the forms those elements can take, and how those elements function to give us a more effective speech. So I'm trying to show you guys now how we can see the value and why I named this section elements, forms, and functions. Sue, do you have any feedback on what we're looking at here?
Look, it's incredibly helpful, and I think it highlights the importance of going through these steps because it allows us to give the audience a fabulous experience. We take them on a journey. It's very clear. We keep them where we want to keep them. I do have a question. When someone else, say, introduces you first and may give some sort of blurb about your background or anything like that, I'm expecting that one, A, B, and C. So gather attention, announce the topic purpose, motivate listening. That doesn't change. Would you change anything from establish your credibility if someone else has already introduced you?
No, I wouldn't.
You'd repeat?
I wouldn't. Listen, establish. Remember, and let me put the title back up. Element doesn't change.
Yeah.
Establish credibility. I don't want to give a speech without establishing credibility. Now, hear what your question is. Let's say somebody introduces me. Hey, everybody, our guest for today is Jeff Klubeck. And Jeff Klubeck is author of 5 books. He's founder of the Integrity Game and Get A Klu Incorporated. He's an international coach, speaker, trainer, having done incredible work in 13 countries and 4 continents. He's gotten thousands of learners past their fear of public speaking through his assignments as an adjunct professor at San Diego State University in the Community College District in San Diego. Somebody else is saying all that shit, right? We're like, right? So I still may come up, I don't have to say all of that.
Yeah.
But I still have to give a credibility piece. I still want to give a credibility piece. Now, sometimes I'm not being introduced, where as soon as the thing starts, I'm live. Like today, nobody introduced me.
No.
Right? And so what do I do in the credibility piece? I say, by now you know this is the 4th installment of a Get a Clue in 52 book. So it's just a brief mention, a brief credibility mention.
Yeah.
Does this make
Yeah.
sense? So in other words,
it does. No, it's good.
the form that my credibility piece takes, the form of the element can shift.
Yeah.
Long form, short form.
Yeah.
Braggadocious form, humble form. Academic form, private form.
Got it.
You know, a focused form, holistic form. Do you know what I'm saying by that?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
like
no, that's helpful. That's good.
In addition to being a professor and a coach and an author and a speaker, he's raising some pretty damn cool kids. And he's been married, right, to one person the entire time. Right.
Yeah.
So this guy knows how to keep relationships together. This guy cares about, he's also a mentor to marketing apprentices, and he pets dogs. So now a holistic approach to my credibility.
Yeah.
Rather than just focus. Do you understand the form that the credibility, or the form that the element takes can be varied, but don't skip the element.
No. I wasn't suggesting to skip it. It was, but you've answered the question was, don't repeat. If someone's already introduced you, don't repeat the content necessarily, but pick up on still some part of credibility to add to that.
Yeah, and so tell me if you could share my screen. There's a couple of things that I want to do before we get into last call. So I referenced in the tip itself, in tip number 32, I know that I referenced my my road trip, right? In the road, let's see. Yeah, in the road trip example, in the road trip sample outline, at the end of this section, I could just as easily have asked. So the idea is, this is a simple 5-minute speech to entertain about my road trip to see a baseball game in every major league stadium. So I use this as a teaching tool in the classroom to show my students how easy it is to create an outline, how effective and valuable it is as step 5 in the path to being conversational, being ourselves. Never mind, when I get done with this section, Sue, I'm going to make a different point. But here's the deal, right? We know that this, I'm going to talk about the ultimate road trip. So we know that my question now is about baseball or road trips, right? How many of you like to go to baseball games, or how many of you like to travel? How about both? But the point that I made in the book here is what I have to do is grab your attention. The way I do it doesn't really have to be about anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I could say, how many of you would recommend to somebody else whatever it is you had for dinner last night? People will go like, first of all, what did I have for dinner last night? Oh yeah. And now I'd have this whole bit. You wouldn't? Well, all right, come on. What'd you have? Oh, and you wouldn't recommend it? Why? Because, come on, tell us why. All right. Well, look, today I'm not going to talk about culinary recommendations. What I am going to do is I'm going to take you around the country with me to see a baseball game in every major league stadium. Do you hear what I just did there, Sue?
Yeah. Yeah.
You see? So the question doesn't even have to be about my content. It just has to function to gather attention. I have to grab the attention of my audience so that I can move to the next step, which is tell them what today is about, why they should listen to me, and signpost where this whole thing is going. Yeah. So that's one thing I wanted to share. Now, back to the credibility piece, where you say, well, on your credibility piece, what happens if somebody introduces you? Well, let me go to my keynote from the integrity game. Can you see my PowerPoint for the integrity game now? So I'm going backwards, right? So, and now here he is, Jeff Klubeck, after they read my bio, right? Jeff is an unretired professor who's been around the world on blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh, thank you for that great introduction today. How many of you are ready to play the integrity game? Well, my name is Jeff Klubeck, and I believe soft skills make strong leaders, teams, and organizations. And Forbes did this great interview with me that goes over my methodology and my approach to coaching and leadership. I'm going to go ahead and summarize it for you right now. So that was like, golly, what was that? Like 10 seconds of credibility?
Yeah.
Before I move into, right? Because somebody introduced me, or it was the event promotions, or maybe my little speaker reel plays for 90 seconds before I come out on stage, and or the host of the event is reading off of a bio sheet or whatever. So, I want to be ready. So if I'm not introduced very well, right? Do you know what I mean? If I'm not introduced at length, then I'm going to take more time on credibility. If I am introduced at length, I'm going to get past the credibility piece because my performance is going to be credibility now, right?
Yeah.
So now we get into it, etc. So back to this. Well, I've shown the visuals, right? These are the sample outlines at the end of this section. So we're going to be referring to these as exemplars for the value of the strategy, which we previewed in tip 27. But now the elements, the forms those elements can take, and how they function to give us a better speech. We are in elements, forms, and functions. Oh, and
Very
guess
helpful.
what? Guess where else we are?
Where are we?
Last call. Here we are. We've made it to last call for comments, questions, jokes, riddles, limericks, expressions of gratitude, or even haikus. Last call. Any comments or expressions? I think we've done a good job setting up where we're headed the rest of the section.
Yeah. No, it's some great ideas, some great examples to think about and use. And I'm running a lunch and learn session this coming week. So that's perfect for me to start thinking about, okay, how am I going to introduce myself? And if someone else introduces me first, what am I going to do there? So
even
really
if it's like,
stuff.
even if it's just like one of my favorite things. So because it's kind of, I don't know, I maybe need to go to therapy and get some help with this, but I find myself, Sue, wanting positive feedback all the time. Like, I want positive feedback. I want validation. Was that cool? Did you like that? Was that awesome? Sometimes I'm like, hey, that was cool. Hey, I thought that was funny. Like, I laugh at my own jokes and I tell other people how funny my jokes were. So it's a sign of insecurity, right? And then on the other side of it, when people just say, Jeff, you're this or that, I'm like, oh no, stop. Right? So I have to actually find a way to balance not seeking feedback so much, nor shying away from it when it comes.
Right. Yeah.
So I say that because I've actually worked on things to say. When people say, oh, I love that, I'll say, oh, that loves you too. Make it mutual. You've heard me do stuff like that, right?
Yes.
So one of the things that I've come up with when I have third-party testimonial, if somebody introduces me, it's like, hey, now it's my pleasure to introduce Jeff Klu back. Right? I remember in the Bahamas, like, hey, we flew Jeff Klu back all the way from San Diego because we wanted the best of the best for you guys. Now, Jeff is an author, a speaker, a professor, and he's been around the world, and we brought him here for you because he's the best of the best of the best of the best. And I'm like, I make up these jokes like,
yeah, I like that one.
it's one of my favorites. Like, no.
Yes, please. More.
But one of the things, if you're doing a lunch and learn and you get introduced and somebody says, hey, we brought Sue in because. One of my favorites, and I'll give this one to you right now. Let me know if you use it. Hey, I'm not in the habit. No, thank you. I'm not in the habit of arguing with Joe. In addition to what Joe said, I also boom, boom, boom. Yeah. Right. And do you remember Author's Hour?
Yes.
Right. So I was introducing the three of you, Lisa, and Diane. Right. And hey, I'm not going to read off of a word for word thing. Yes. That's not my style at all. I'm going to talk to you from the heart about how I know these ladies, which I know I was giving the credibility. It was attention. Like sometimes the elements blend, if you will. Right.
Yeah.
But the one subtle thing that I was able to do, right, I don't know if you remember this, is like, hey, is there anything that I missed that you want people to know?
That's right.
So
yes, you gave us the opportunity to add.
And then I gave you the opportunity to add anything, either trivial or professional or in between, that I may have missed. Is there anything you want the audience to know about your credibility, your background, and why you're here on this panel today?
Yeah.
So it's a good blend of, because sometimes we don't want to like, oh, I'm being introduced, so I don't have to do that. Don't do that. Pay attention to how you're introduced so you can I'm not in the habit of arguing with the organizer. I agree with everything the organizer said, but one thing you also want to know about me that might help you pay attention to this speech is that Shaquille O'Neal believes that I'm his good luck charm. That's attention gaining and credibility. Anyway, you understand what I'm getting at. So
that's fabulous.
I want some micro credibility pieces in my pocket. I want to have command of my bio and the things that I think make me credible. I want to put a third-party organizer, event host in a position to give a great intro, and I'm going to be ready to supplement that. But I practice the transition language and the humility pieces because, some people, like you said, like, oh, I don't want to be silly. I don't want to dance around like a fool. Okay, don't. And some people are like, I don't want to brag about myself. I don't want to draw attention to my. Stop it. Okay. Then you don't want an effective speech, right? Like there are times in our lives when we have to lean into our badassery. We have to own how much ass we kick and how prepared we are to create value for our audience. And so sometimes, anyway, yeah. Last call. Comments, questions.
I love it. I think it just highlights, owning who we are, why we're there. I mean, we haven't got there without having done something to get us there. So own it, and bring the value in a really amazing way to our audience. So awesome.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, let's remind everybody that they can get a copy of 8 Steps to Fearless Public Speaking. The whole outline template that we were showing you is the 5th step, but we're breaking down the 5th step, for the next 2 months, really. But if you want to get a standalone document, 8 Steps to Fearless Public Speaking, send info to getaklu.net with the subject line Be Fearless, and we'll send that out to you. We also have a Bring Out Your Brand report. If you remember, we talked about section 2 being Bring Out Your Brand. So we haven't mentioned this in a couple of weeks, but we have a freebie here for you as well. If you want to get a free Bring Out Your Brand report, at the end of that report, we show you how to get 2 complimentary coaching sessions with myself or Sue or one of the coaches that we've trained here in our ecosystem. And that's available for you as well. It's very simple. Give us your email address. We'll give you something that we think is valuable. We hope you think is valuable so that you're in our system so we can constantly promote to you and share with you the things that we're doing until you unsubscribe and get mad at us and all of the good stuff, right? We've all been there.
Exactly.
And then finally, Sue, I'm going to do it, right? We have not disabled the code yet. Okay. We haven't disabled the code. We thought we might do it on August 1st, but we haven't disabled it. So I thought I might as well let everybody know that the 90-day challenge is open for business. When I talk about the 90-day challenge, we're talking about the Integrity Game 90-day challenge. And so if I can bring this up and get ready to share with people, the 90-day challenge, I'll show everybody what it looks like real quick. I'm going to do it. It's $1,000 product. So people could pay $1,000 or you could pay 12 payments of $97. But with the code, you can get the whole thing for $1, and after 3 months, it converts to a $99 a month subscription. But if you can see my screen now, Sue, can you see my screen?
Yes.
So we're in the arena now, which is the membership area of the Integrity Game. We're in the arena, and when we go in here to take courses, I want to find the 90-day challenge, which is right here. And by the way, it's free to become a member of the arena, and we have all kinds of freebies that we can give away to you as well. Free content. It's free to be a member. You'll see this start to populate real quick as long as my internet is working pretty good. So we call it promotional giveaways, or imagine it's like general admission, where this is like the free stuff that we want you to have. You can download PDFs of the books. You can book 2 one-on-one coaching sessions with an Integrity Game certified coach. It's up to 2. Then it's up to you. It's up to 2. Then maybe you're through. It's up to 2. Then you'll know what to do. But we put 2 comp sessions in everything that we do. As long as you haven't had them yet, everybody is eligible for 2 free one-on-one sessions with an Integrity Game certified coach. But we'll preview all of the other content this year, all of these recordings that we're doing, reading tips. But this is the 5th year in a row that I'm doing it, right? So all of the other Get a Clue and 52 books that I mentioned, we have those recordings available to watch all in one place rather than having to scroll through 3-4 years worth of social media to find the recordings. 90-day challenge. We preview the 90-day challenge in the free area, Cluey snacks and smart goal setting and comp. So we're going to put a lot of freebies in here for people to just consume content all day long if you want to. I hope you have a better life than that. But specifically, the 90-day challenge is where we want to take people through the Integrity Game. The 10 points on the Integrity Game model, they showed up as the first 10 tips in our book, section 1. But when somebody joins the 90-day challenge, it's evergreen now. We call it 90-day, but that's deceiving. You could go through this at your own pace. And I say that because Yeah, you get 2 private sessions with a one-on-one coach. Hey, you get to join our private Facebook group where we live stream my all-star sessions and bonus content and motivational Mondays and Kluby snacks and on, where you can interact with and engage and post stuff if you want to in the private Facebook group. But we have a fillable workbook that people can grab, so you can take notes online or print it out and write by hand and follow along when you're watching the sessions that make up the vertebrae of the program. We're giving everybody a free set of behavioral assessments, a disc and a motivators, which shows us what gets you out of bed and off the couch and what are the lenses through which you see the world. And then also what is your instinctual behavioral style, which lends itself to gifts week when we talk about competitive advantages and differentiation and why are you different from everybody else and why do people want to hire you and work with you and so forth. We give a free PDF of the Integrity Game book itself. And then what you see here is the archives, Volume 1 and Volume 2 of All-Star Sessions. So we've got 2 years worth of archives in here, and starting a month from now on September 4th, we're going to do Volume 3. Brand new live All-Star Sessions are going to be live streamed into the private Facebook group, recorded, and then stacked up here as Volume 3 as we continue to populate and make this program super valuable. So this is a self-paced, kind of hybrid, kind of self-paced, because you can get one-on-one sessions with a live coach. You can join the live all-star interviews and interact and do Q&A, but you could also self-paced study your way through the overview of the Integrity Game, and then answer your questions of purpose and answer your questions of gifts and answer questions about your potential and your goals and your strategies and your relationship to your word and your orientation towards taking action and what you want to learn proactively in order to reach your potential and achieve your goals, and making sure you smell your own roses rather than only being focused on what you haven't achieved yet. You have to take a deep breath, update that resume, update that LinkedIn profile, smell your own roses so you know exactly what you have to offer the rest of the world. Even though you're still pursuing what you pursue, we want to make sure that you're always aware of who could benefit from your successes, who drinks when your cup spilleth over, who are the populations that motivate your pursuits, who's going to win when you win, when you achieve your purpose. And so all of this is happening. I just clicked on that unnecessarily, but that's what the 90-day challenge is. And I really do believe it's beyond $1,000 in value, but we're offering it for $9.97 or $97 a week. But right now you can get it for $1 if
That's
you type in the
value.
code. Yeah. So go to tinyurl.com/TIG-hard90. And maybe Sue will have a different link for you next week, and she'll put her affiliate link in so we can do an affiliate program. If you think you want to promote the 90-day challenge, you want to become an affiliate, let us know. We can make you an affiliate where you can sell the program to your sphere and you can benefit from inviting people to play the Integrity Game. So we're working on all of that behind the scenes, and I didn't want to detour too much from what we're doing today, which is reading tip number 32 out of 52. We're more than halfway through this thing, Sue. But it just dawns on me that it's a good idea to let people know we're going to start firing up our all-star sessions. I'm going to do the overview on September 4th, and then I've got Lori and Aaron on September 11th, and then after that we've got Gifts Week where we're going to the lineup of gifts. I don't want to screen share again and go.
Sloan for gifts.
Well, Sloan is actually going to come in at Word and Commitment. Okay. And then maybe it's. No. I'm getting confused. Well, I know that you're going to be. I know that you and Debbie are going to be on Potential Week.
Right?
Yep, yeah. So like your corporate experience is really going to help us understand the mindset of C-level or leadership teams. Executive teams, management teams, leadership teams, executives. Right? Because it breaks down to vision, mission, objectives. So it's going to be great to have you and Debbie on the panel as Integrity Game certified coaches, and maybe next week I'll screen share and show the whole lineup of all-stars that we can expect to be interviewing. I just booked another guest yesterday for Smart Goal Setting Week. He is a podcast host and CEO of the Leader Lab. And I'm just excited about the power that I'm bringing to my lineup of all-stars this year. And it all is in support of the 90-day challenge, because we want you to stabilize, to retrofit yourself, to come into balance, come into focus, create your resilience, know what you have to say no to, know what you have to say yes to, because it integrates with your answers to the Integrity Game questions. So we're excited about all of it. Sue, anything else before
Mm-hmm.
dismiss for today. Anything else? Last call.
No, nothing else to say. I'm excited to. Yeah, I'm excited too, and I love the value and the ideas from today as well. So,
Yeah. Lots of stuff. I'm kind of putting it all out there. So thank you. We'll see you again next week. I know that you will interact in between now and next week, but next week got tip number 33, and we already previewed it a little bit. It's topic statement, purpose statement, thesis statement, if you want to get academic. But like, what the hell is this speech going to be about? At some point, we have to let our audience know what this thing is about in our own way, in our own words, in ways that keep them engaged in what we're doing the rest of the way. All right. We'll see everybody next week for tip 33. Thank you as always, Sue. Have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye now.
You too. Bye. Bye now.